Good evening, trustees, Dr. Azarmani, members of the cabinet, members of the audience. This is a presentation on Universal Pre-Kindergarten and a request to approve the UPK Planning and Implementation Grant Program. In 2021, Governor Newsom signed SB 130, which authorized the expansion of Universal Pre-Kindergarten. Universal Pre-Kindergarten is the Transitional Kindergarten, or TK program in MJUSD. This bill, once fully implemented, will allow for all students to have an opportunity for a 2-year kindergarten program. Full implementation will begin in 25-26. However, in the next 4 years, schools across the state will begin the transition by increasing enrollment each year until we've reached full implementation in 25-26. MJUSD must decide how to implement the requirements. There are 3 models to choose from: TK on our elementary campus, TK on our preschool campus, or TK in both our elementary and preschools. When deciding how to roll out the implementation plan, consideration must be given to the impact in each school year. The chart shows how the expansion of TK program will grow each year until full implementation in 25-26. Currently, TK is designed for students who turn 5 between September 2nd and December 2nd. Starting in 22-23, the date changes to students who turn 5 between September 2nd and February 2nd. Then, the date is expanded by 2 months the following years until 25-26, when any student who is 4 by September 1st will be eligible for TK. The ratios and class sizes will be explained later in this presentation. During the 1920 school year, MJUSD had 158 students enrolled in TK. Please remember this is based on birth dates between September 2nd and December 2nd. Also, remember TK is optional, so families are not required to enroll students in TK. During distance learning, MJUSD only had 100 students enrolled in TK and 134 students enrolled this last year. These numbers are lower than the pre-pandemic enrollment. Based on county census data, and if all families enroll their students with MJUSD for TK, expected enrollment is 320 TK students next year. From there, the numbers will increase to 428 projected in the 23-24 school year, 560 projected in the 24-25, and 740 projected when full implementation hits in 25-26. The TK programs will have a different staffing ratio based on the physical location of the program. If the program is on an elementary site, the ratio is 12-1, meaning 12 students for every 1 adult, with a 24 maximum in a classroom. In terms of teachers and credentials, one of the adults in the room must hold a valid multiple subject credential. Currently, MJUSD provides paraeducators in every TK classroom. With this practice, MJUSD meets the requirements of 12-1. However, if the program is provided in a preschool setting, staffing ratios must be met by the preschool definitions, which is 8-1, meaning 8 students for every 1 adult. Preschool will have the same teacher credential requirement of at least 1 adult must have a valid multiple subject credential. In addition to the multiple subject credential, TK teachers will need to have 24 early childhood education units. There are a few grandfather clauses and qualifying experiences that could be used to meet the credential requirement, but either way, MJUSD will need to ensure our TK teachers have the additional requirements. Unfortunately, not all teachers coming from college programs with the multiple subject credential have courses in early childhood education. As stated earlier, students can attend TK at an elementary school or a preschool. Currently, state preschool programs have limited space and has an income requirement associated with enrollment. Pair this with the 8-1 ratio and the projected enrollment, having a TK program solely at the state preschool program is not feasible. Elementary schools are better equipped to manage the expansion of TK. Next year, all of MJUSD elementary sites will have a TK option. TK can be offered as a TKK combo at sites who either do not have enough TK students for a full class, or if a site has more than 24 TK students, there might be a need to combine a class with kindergarten students. However, once the TK student is enrolled in the kindergarten classroom, the credential and staffing requirements for TK is required, specifically the 12-to-1 ratio and the credential requirements. What does this mean moving forward? During the 21-22 school year, MJUSD had 13 teachers and 13 paraeducators teaching TK students. Next year, MJUSD will be adding a TK classroom at Arboga and at Edgewater, bringing the need for teachers and paraeducators up to 15 positions. The following years, MJUSD will need more teachers and more paraeducators. Please remember that this will be based on our families enrolling students in the TK program. But with this in mind, we can expect approximately needing an additional 20 teachers and paraeducators by the 25-26 school year. With more teachers comes the need for more facilities. There are some options that can be utilized between now and 25-26, but MJUSD will need more classrooms. When looking at facilities, existing classrooms can be used. However, it is strongly recommended that the classrooms have close proximity to the kindergarten complex. With new construction, the room must meet Title 24 building codes, Field Act requirements, and Title V regulations. Basically, rooms have to have bathrooms, access to a playground, and a minimum size is required. MJUSD is not the only district grappling with the needs for facilities. This is a statewide concern and urgency. MJUSD is applying for some grant funding to help offset the cost of new construction at sites. The current grant programs have requirements that MJUSD will need to address. For example, the Extending Learning Opportunity Program must be up and running for TK and kindergarten students. As you recall, the ELOP is the Extended Care Program, where care is available to elementary students for up to 9 hours a day. The instructional minutes are part of those 9 hours. Thank you.